How's it going, guys? How are you doing? And welcome to a new video tutorial from I. Anyways, today we got something special to actually explore together. So something new in React to see how the React ecosystem actually works and how to get the best out of it. And of course, we're gonna discuss every single aspect of the React ecosystem. Plus, we're gonna see what is the best boilerplate you can use for creating or scaffolding your React application. Of course, I know a lot of you guys try to create their React applications and they most of the times fall back to using create React app, while for large scale applications and huge applications like you're working for a company, and of course you're going to create some a large scaled platform that needs maintenance over time, and of course that needs scales over the time. There's tons of developers or many developers actually working on that platform specifically together. So you're gonna need to create the project a little bit differently than using create React app regularly or in the standard React app. And of course you need to use a specific boilerplates made by other developers that actually are having the standards together, and they've put all the work together, of course, with all the tests, and they just created the best webpack configuration, the best combination between all of that in order to format or make this ecosystem for you actually guys to use it out of the box. So I'm gonna just discuss every single aspect of the React ecosystem, from using React with Redux, Redux Saga, Reselect, and many more style components and stuff like that. So what is the best combination of all of those? I know a lot of you guys try to understand React just from one perspective, that it's just only a view, but it is more than a view model. It has actually a state management, so you can use Redux, and how you can handle side effects using Redux Saga, and so on and so forth. So if you put all of those together, you're gonna have the best combination you can ever have dreamed of creating something like a project. And of course the project structure is gonna be the best you can have imagined. It's gonna be maintainable, scalable. Of course the code is gonna be very much readable, and of course easier to go through and structure everything, and of course upgrade stuff and fix bugs much easier than just going and creating your application without following a specific boilerplate or a specific structure, and just digging in without knowing what you're actually doing. So the React ecosystem in here, there's first, for those of you who doesn't know, Redux. So what is actually Redux? Redux is an open source library for managing React state, and of course this is actually going to help us to manage the React state with ease and efficiency. So it helps you easily maintain and scale up large applications to manage the state of the whole application. And of course you can imagine a global store for your application, where all the state for the whole application is going to be saved in there, and all of your components are actually connecting to this store, fetching the state, and of course working with the state, for example, and dispatching specific actions to alter the state. And of course you're going to have follow up the immutable pattern in order to make sure your state is actually fully immutable, and you're not going to have any data issues or something. So of course it is probably the best for large scale applications. You are definitely going to just go for Redux for the state management. And of course you can compare this to the Facebook flux pattern, because they're actually the same thing. Redux is much more efficient for me as a developer, because I've used both of these and I found Redux much easier to use. The documentation is much better, and the structure of the pattern is just completely easy to understand and walk through your different applications. So next, what is Redux Saga? And from its name, you know it is actually a Redux plugin, or Redux, what is called a Redux middleware. So Redux has a couple of middlewares you can use from now and here, and you could have heard about the Redux logger middleware, which allows you to actually log every single state change points on your application. So whenever you change the state throughout your application, of course you're gonna be noticing this change through just by constantly logging the state, so you can easily debug your application, see how everything is set up behind the scenes. So React Redux is actually an open source middleware library for Redux that easily helps you to manage and handle side effects. And what I mean by side effects, you can call an external API for your server to fetch some specific data, and of course this is going to happen asynchronously. So doing that in your React components can be a little bit like I don't know, glimpsy, and it doesn't look that much of as a readable code or anything. So the best explanation for that is actually using Redux Saga that gives the way to handle your side effects, like fetching data from a server, or you can just simply wait for something to happen like asynchronously, specifically asynchronous applications or functions. And simply what you can think about Redux Saga, it can also handle the DOM side effects. So you can change the tab or the website title. So you do that there, like documents set title, of course, or anything around that for DOM handling stuff. Of course, is going to be done in Redux Saga because it's much easier to use that. And simply Redux, what it does is just listens for specific actions of the store. Once those actions are actually dispatched, the Redux Saga function is going to run, and the function is actually going to be running under the JavaScript generator function, if you're familiar with. So it is easily allows you to either pause, resume, or completely get rid of the function at any stage you want, which is the best combination you can have for handling side effects on React, and specifically for Redux. And here, the other thing we would look is actually Reselect. So you're gonna find in this boilerplate that we're gonna be looking at in just a couple of seconds is Reselect. So what is Reselect? Reselect is actually a simple selector library made specifically for Redux to help you easily extract global state. Of course, you can use Reselect for other things rather than using it with Redux. That's obvious. But the main point about it is actually extracting the state from Redux and making it like you can like partitioning the state into different partitions, so you can easily access every single partition depending on the components that is actually trying to access this partition, and of course use the states from now and then. And easily you can extract the states among your app components without needing to rewrite code. And this is the best, or the the best convenient actually for me, and that I like about using Reselect. So since I started using Reselect, I find like I write less code. I don't rewrite code specifically for map state to props or anything. So we just don't specifically, and every single time I need to get like a state variable from the store from Redux, I just rewrite the whole thing. So now using Reselect, I'm gonna simply just go in and use the Reselect function, and it's gonna give me that specific thing I need, this specific variable, without any hassles or issues. So that's actually the best thing about Reselect. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. Now, the best React boilerplate that you can go for like large scale applications is actually called React Boilerplate, and probably most of you actually guys know about it. So we're going to be explaining all of that and the side projects of this. So the React Boilerplate is actually a boilerplate that helps you quickly scaffold and set up React projects with different technologies. So you can easily use Redux with Redux Saga for fully set up with actions, reducers, and convenient project structure. React Router for full routing architecture built with the React Router. And of course, the beloved styled component, which is CSS in JS framework with Jest to easily create custom style components and custom tests for your own React components. So it's actually the best combination you can have nowadays, specifically on 2020. So the React Boilerplate has all of that and has much more than that. The project structure is just completely insane. I love it. Since I started working with React Boilerplate specifically for building huge platforms, working with my team, among other developers, and of course for companies. So React Boilerplate is actually a pretty great thing. I love this boilerplate. It has the structure, is pretty great. The framework is pretty damn cool. I just love it. I can't actually say how much I'm in love with that framework and with this boilerplate specifically. So yeah, so let's just go and jump and see how you can get this boilerplate, like git clone, of course, most of you know about that. And we can just walk through every single aspect of it and see how you can actually use React Boilerplate and why it is much better for you actually, guys. So just go to GitHub and just search for React Boilerplate, or you can just go to this link, React Boilerplate / React Boilerplate, and you're gonna get into the boilerplate template right over here. There's actually a specific website which is just like a landing page, nothing more than that. And here you've got all of your boilerplate files and folders, and this is the project structure. Down here you got the MD or the README file, and of course it has all of your information, what you can do with it, the features, and definitely like a quick starting guide how you can get rid of start right out of the box. And of course the starting guide is pretty straightforward, so you can easily work with it. Just clone it with the depth 1, so you just don't get everything around the gets and stuff, this repository. So you get a clean boilerplate repo, and simply you can cd to your project, do npm start to start up the localhost server, or what you can do is actually run npm clean to delete the example application. And of course you can read more about the documentation, see the great team behind this boilerplate. I just love it, and Max Stoiber is actually behind that, the creator of site components, a lot of other open source libraries. So yeah, thank you guys for that. I just love this. I already did clone all of that, and yeah, we can just go and jump into the Visual Studio Code project, and there you go. So this is actually the projects that we have got cloned from the GitHub repo, of course. So the project structure is pretty straightforward, and as I've said in here in the guide, what it is saying is simply you can just go and run npm setup to install dependencies and clean the Git repository. So what we can do is we want to clean the Git repository, so I'm going to create a new terminal instance for that case, and simply I'm just going to do npm run setup, and here it's going to start setting up, cleaning up the Git repository, and of course it's going to do npm install, and simply just going to install everything that we need. So just waiting for that to finish up, what we can do is actually just jump here from the right side and see what is the project structure and how everything is actually structured and what are the main tools. So starting off with the basic stuff that we can learn about is actually the internals folder. So it's actually the most interesting folder in here, which has all the configuration. So starting off, there's a generators folder, there's mocks, scripts, templates, and testing, and of course Webpack. And all you know what is that is actually the Webpack configuration for base. So both like the shared configuration. So you got simply your Webpack configuration in here in just using common.js, and there you go. You got that right out of the box, Webpack, and just a simple Babel loader with the CSS style loader, SVG URL loader, and different type of things with Webpack, and of course the environments, either development or production. The other thing is actually the development. So you got the development in here, and specifically for development, so it uses the Webpack hot middleware to auto reload and stuff. There's a production middleware which has all of that. So here in this folder you've got all of your Webpack configuration. In testing we got the test bundler, which is just use it just for Babel polyfill to use with Jest. There's here all of your templates. So the application is actually put in here. So if you wanted to clean up the example in this template folder, you got all the example of the application, because this boilerplate already includes like some simple example, React example, just to show you how everything actually works and tie it up together. So you can take a look on this folder to know more about that. And there's simply the script folder. So the script folder, what it has a setup, which is we are running right now to set up everything, to install dependencies like a clean, analyze, extract, NTL, generate template for linting. So you can generate that, and of course there's some kind of helpers in here, just like some scripts to run for helping you set up the projects and structure it. There's mocks in here just for some mocking, and of course there's the generators, which are the creating used, of course handlebars to create these templates. And these generators, they generate this specific templates and generate the whole project in here. So this is the internal folder. This is the docs. So if you want to learn more about the React Boilerplate, if you would like to, so right here in the docs folder, there is the server, which is just simply running on Express. So it's clearly in here, Express server on Node.js, and use ngrok, or I don't know how you call that specifically, how you spell that specifically, but it just uses ngrok to run the tunnel and just start up everything in a local host. I think 5,000 ports. I'm not quite sure. You can configure that. There's actually the ports. So yeah, 3,000. It starts with 3,000 as the ports, and of course it uses some specific middlewares just to serve the files from the application folder. Now we got the application folder, which is the most so far interesting folder in this one. So this is where all of your code actually resides in, and where everything is going to be put up. All of your code or if your application logic is going to be put up inside of the app folder. So the app folder has components which holds like side stateful, mostly mostly they are actually stateless components, so they are just like a dumb components. They just accept props and render depending on that props. They don't care about the state or anything. So this is where all of these dumb components live. There's actually the containers. So there's actually the app in here just for holding the containers, and containers, they actually the pages. So the app folder in here holds the structure for all of the other pages. There's actually a feature page, home page, language provider, local toggle, and so on and so forth, like a not found page, like a 404 page or something. There are emojis in here, so they have like a 520, pi 20, 520, just like an favicon icon. There's Jest, of course, it uses the Jest framework. So if you take a look on that, it's just simply going to use Jest testing framework, like Jest already installed on that, and tries to run tests on your components. There's translations. So if you want to hold specific language translation here, like there's language provider, so you can hold localization files in here in enter JSON. So there's Dutch. So I don't know, you can provide specific that if you want to just, like, gonna help you a lot do something like translations for your application, so you can support multi-language applications right out of the box without any issue. So this is actually the best part about that, using translation. So it's actually set up for you right out of the box, and you don't need to do that much of setup and stuff. The utilities folder or utils folder, there's actually, you can check store, used for checking if the store is healthy and everything is set up. There's history in here to help you fetch history from the React router, inject reducer to the whole reducer objects that is running on the store. Of course, there's the inject Saga, the loadable requests here. This one is going to be used to get JSON, and of course to provide you with a simple request or fetch API to fetch data from your server. There's a Saga injector, and of course this is where all of your Saga is going to be happening. And the most important parts in here, if you want to use Nginx or either Apache, they have both configuration, like htaccess, and they have nginx.configuration. There's the app.js in here, which is the main starting point, where it holds the main render functions. Clears in here, raw React DOM.render, any provider of the Redux provider. It provides the store, it provides your application, and of course it just like wraps that using the connect router plus the language provider. So you got everything in here. This is actually the starting point to start like working from your application, and the where the rendering is actually gonna start. Yeah, I'm gonna start with a new repository in here because I run that anyway. So we got configure store to configure the store and stuff. There's actually a lot of configuration. You don't really need to go through any of that because it already set up for you, so you don't need to go deep into this. But I worked with this and I didn't even need to touch the configure store that many times, of course, unless you want to just do some deep dive custom configuration for that. You can just go and check out the config store and stuff. But anything other than that, you don't actually need it. The global stores in here, it uses the style components to create global CSS stores, styles, sorry. I18N is actually for localization. So of course you can have that as well. So this is actually a standard. And here's this reducers, where all of your reducers actually are going to be put for injecting reducers and stuff. And you're going to have everything right down here. Now, where actually the Redux store is going to live on configure store, and of course you're going to have that on your store. For the actual Saga, so each component or each page is going to have its own Saga. So if you take a look here on the home page, we got a Saga file, we got a selectors file, and of course, take a look, there's an actions file for dispatching specific Redux actions, and there's a constant here. So the constant file is going to just export specific action names, where all of the other things, there's actually the reducer. So here it exports like a function as a main reducer, which holds the state, a switch of the action.type, and of course it's just gonna check for the case, and it's gonna export default the home reducer. So it's actually the basic structure of a specific page, or every page is gonna have that specific configuration or structure where you got the reducer, the selector. There is actually the actions for specific actions, and you can of course hold different files in here, but those actually the main standard files for the Saga in here. If you want to like look on the Saga and how you can use it, of course we're not going to just dive into Saga in here, but as I said before, Saga uses specific generators. So this is how actually how a JavaScript generator looks like. Here it does, and like it grabs the API. So you're seeing it uses a selector to select specific username, and of course what it does, gonna call the request to the requested URL, and here it's gonna put the repos loaded into the state. So it's gonna put that into the store of the Redux store, which means the global state, and we're gonna save that on the states, and otherwise it's just gonna rise up an error. So as you see in here, this is just for getting or fetching repos from a specific API server. How simple is that? It's pretty simple, pretty easy to use Saga without just the hassle of putting all of your logics with fetching code into one single component. It's actually much better, much easier to read, and the structure is just super simple. So it's clear in here, this is what actually a Saga looks like. If you take a look on actions, this is actually what it looks like, and of course the main components, this is simply what it looks like. So just like a normal components, you can inject reducers, and of course it uses hook in here. So yeah, hooks are pretty much the best thing in here. As clear, you use effects just by running up functions, and you can have prop types and map state your props and stuff like that. So it's clear, pretty simple. Nothing is actually complicated with that. If we've seen before, if you take a look in here, you can just do npm run start. So if you take a look on npm run start, it should probably start up a specific simple development server, and it's gonna start this on localhost 3000. So if you take a look in this, we got 3000, and this is the boilerplate. So it's actually a pretty simple example or this setup for you guys. So you can take a look on how everything works. You can examine the code, see how everything is set up, to understand how the React boilerplate actually works. So you can easily understand and dive into this React boilerplate, and why not? You can learn more about that, and of course use it in your project. So I tried to give you just a simple idea of how the boilerplate works and why it is much better. There are many files I haven't covered in here. Of course I can't cover all of them, but there's actually predo configuration, ESLint configuration, MVM RC. There is of course the traverse, it uses traverse or upvire. There is the Babel configuration in here. There's many configuration files in here. You can just check out them by yourself, but this is the basic thing about React boilerplates. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video tutorial. If you want to like more video tutorials like this one, just explaining boilerplates and what are the best practices for developers and how you can improve yourself, and of course if you just want to just do something huge and like create a large scale project and things like that, so let me know in the comments. I'll be very happy to do more of that video tutorials. So thank you guys for watching. I said it before, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you actually guys liked the React boilerplate, and without further say, see you guys hopefully in the next video tutorials. Adios.